Oklahoma's 2-0, but that's not nearly good enough. What's up, everybody? This is the Sooners on SI weekend preview. We're calling this thing. I'm John Hoover. Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet are here to help me preview Oklahoma's game this week against Tulane. The Sooners are indeed 2-0, but Brent Venables said several times after they beat Houston 16-12 last week, and I quote, "We didn't deserve to win. We deserve to lose." Ugh. That's not good when your head coach comes off the field feeling that way. Houston's in the Big 12 now, you guys, but that team does not yet have Big 12 talent. I don't know how we summarize what happened last week. Houston had more yards than Oklahoma, 318 to 249. They averaged more yards per play, 5.0 to 4.1. They dominated time of possession for what that's worth. They had more first downs. Guys, Oklahoma's final 8 possessions last week produced exactly 0 points. The defense scored the only points of the second half when Grayson Halton, of all people, clinched it with a safety. So that made it 16-12. Now, here's the bad news, y'all. Tulane is way better than Houston. The Green Wave nearly upset Kansas State last week in New Orleans. They probably should be coming in here undefeated and ranked, if you think about it. So for Brent Venables and company to digest this week, there is a lot. Kickoff is 2:30 p.m. ESPN has the game. So let's jump into this week's questions. OU covered 43.5 against Temple. They did not cover 27.5 against Houston. Question is this: will they cover 13.5? They are a 13.5 point favorite against Temple, against Tulane, or could they lose this game even straight up? I can't believe I just asked that, but could they lose, or will they just cover, or will they win and not cover, and why? Ryan, start us off.
Yeah, I mean, can they lose? Yes. Are they going to lose? No, they're not going to lose. They will cover, and that does not mean that I think that the offense is suddenly fixed and going to be a unit that Oklahoma's beating its chest about. But here's the beautiful thing about college football. Teams are allowed to get better from week to week. Teams are allowed to have really bad weeks. And while you didn't see the typical, stereotypical, the most improvement you see is from week 1 to week 2 in a college football season, there's a reason for that with Oklahoma, and it's the fact that their offensive line is as banged up as it's been in the past 5 or 6 years. It's certainly the most injured group that I can remember since covering this team. It's not going to have starters across the board, but it does seem like Bill Beanbo at least got a large 2.5 quarter sample of what that 5 could look like without Branson Hickman and without Jake Taylor. You saw Logan Howland come in. Josh Bates made his first start at center. And I know it's not very popular. Oklahoma did make improvements in pass protection from week 1 to week 2. There's a lot of stuff that they got to get on the same page. Jackson Arnold's got to make better decisions, but I do think the offensive line will play better. I think they will find some semblance of a running game. It's not going to be elite. It's not going to be explosive, but it will help loosen the box. I think Jackson Arnold's going to bounce back in a big way. We saw him kind of bounce back from that Alamo Bowl. It was an off season. He had to prepare not just 1 week, but I think you'll see that. And here's the end all be all. Dorian Mintz has been awesome for Tulane as a redshirt freshman quarterback. He's not faced a group that looks quite like Oklahoma's defense. He's also not faced 85,000 fans screaming in his face, because I think this is an Oklahoma fan base that understands this team's going to need him all year long. So is it fixed? Does this mean Oklahoma's going to beat Tennessee in 2 weeks' time, week and a half, whatever it is? No. But can they cover 13.5 or 14 against Tulane? I think they will.
I say Oklahoma wins, but is going to have a hard time covering the spread. I think this game comes down to the wire. Guys, they say good teams win and great teams cover. This is not a great team right now. Literally, the 4 best receivers back from 2023 are all injured. Maybe Nick Anderson comes back this week, but even if he does, he's just getting out of the training room. So how close to 100% can he be? The offensive line is so bad right now that Brent Venables told us Tuesday they're looking at true freshman Eddie Pierre-Louis to possibly step in. Not necessarily as a starter this week, but they want to start trying to maybe work him in some snaps. Getting Branson Hickman back at center could be huge, but that's not a given. They said they're hopeful. Brent said again, hopeful today on the SEC call. Tulane's quarterback is Dorian Mensah, completing 70% of his passes as of right now through 2 games. Former Sooner wide receiver Mario Williams is averaging just 125 yards a game. Woof. Mekhi Hughes is averaging almost 100 yards a game on the ground. He's their running back, and he's one of 5 players on this team who got a preseason all-conference accolades. So Tulane was picked third in the American, but remember, guys, preseason, I picked them as my group of 5 playoff team. So, yeah, not only do I think Oklahoma's not going to cover the 13.5, but if Tulane wins this game and then they get into conference play and they go unbeaten in the American, they're probably headed to the playoff. They're looking really good. Now, I'm not calling the upset, but I'm just saying if. I do think Oklahoma needs to be on upset alert. The defense needs to be better than ever on Saturday afternoon, especially in this game. Randall, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Ryan on this one. I think that the way Oklahoma's going to hear everything that, media, that fans have been saying over the past week, I think that Brent Venables, Seth Luttrell, that offense, I think they're going to make a real concerted effort to come out this week and just dominate in the line of scrimmage and, in the passing game, trying to get the ball going on the ground. Obviously, dominating at the line of scrimmage takes more than just will. You have to have the players up front to do it. But as Ryan mentioned, those guys have had at least a few quarters now together. If, it's the same group that we saw close the game last week, assuming that Jake Taylor's probably still hurt, assuming that Branson Hickman's probably still hurt. So, if you do see that same 5 that you saw to close the Houston game, as Ryan mentioned, they improved in pass protection. They're not a terrible group in that aspect. I think Jackson Arnold is going to really have I think he's really going to want to come and bounce back this week. And I think that Oklahoma's offense is going to take enough of a step to be able to cover that spread. And I think that the defense is what's obviously really going to lead to that, because a redshirt freshman playing his first defense of this caliber, I think that Oklahoma is going to be able to turn him over. I think they're going to be able to get I don't to use the Sam Darnold phrase. I think they're going to have Darian Minta seeing ghosts in the backfield with the way that some of those interior guys are able to get pressure. If Grayson Halton lands on you 1 or 2 times early in the game, you're going to be a lot more scared when you're dropping back the next few times. Or, you see Dominic Williams bearing down on you. You see Ethan Downs with the black face paint bearing down on you. You're going to be a lot more worried next time you drop back than you were to start the game. Ryan, you mentioned the fans. That atmosphere is probably going to be rocking. It's going to be hot outside. That probably won't affect Tulane too much, but I think that Oklahoma's players are going to be conditioned, and I think they've got the depth on defense to be able to handle the heat, to be able to rotate guys in. I think that, the defense is going to put Tulane in enough of a bind that they're not going to score a ton, and I think that the offense is going to score enough with some more confidence, with some more cohesion this week to be able to cover the spread.
Okay, second question. Randall, we'll start with you this time. And you may have answered it a little bit already with your previous answer, but here's my question. We know that the offensive line has got major problems. We know that the Sooners haven't established any kind of running game yet. We know pass blocking has been an adventure at times. Jackson Arnold's been sacked 3 times each game. We know that the receivers have been below average, shall we say. The question is this: is Jackson Arnold good enough to overcome that against Tulane? This is his 4th career start. Can he finally come out and kind of look like that 5-star recruit, that Johnny 5-star, and be that guy that just leads this offense, wills them into the end zone? The elite ones can do that, you guys. Is that Jackson Arnold, or is it too early to say?
I think he can do that. I think that obviously, now here's what I'll say. I think if this were later in the year, if this were next year, I would say certainly you're more confident in an older, more mature Jackson Arnold. Now, in start number 4 of his career, start number 3 at Owen Field, maybe you're a little less confident in that answer. But I think the thing that you need to tell Jackson Arnold, if you're Seth Luttrell, is you don't have to go out and be the number 1 draft pick today. Just hit the right throws, make the right reads, put the ball where it needs to be. We're going to do everything we can to put you in the right position, to put the receivers in the right position. If you can make the right decisions, you can hit those guys, it'll be good enough for us to move the ball down the field. I think you saw that last week in one specific drive against Houston, the drive that ended up in a Jake Roberts touchdown. The Jackson Arnold was making the right reads. He was putting the ball where it needed to go. Some of those routes over the middle to Deion Burks. I think he found Brennan Thompson, some running backs out in the flat, and then of course the pass to the tight end Jake Roberts to finish it. I think drives like that, he doesn't necessarily look like some 5-star future number 1 pick, but he's making, he's not showing off the cannon of an Army's guy. He's not racing down the sideline like some of the other quarterbacks that you'll see, like a Jalen Milroe, but he's making the right reads. He's hitting the right receivers. I think if he can do that, that is enough for Oklahoma's offense to overcome Tulane. Now, will it be enough to overcome the teams in the SEC? That'll remain to be seen.
Yeah, from everything we've seen so far, and I'm going back to the Alamo Bowl, I still think it's too early to tell. 2 really ugly interceptions early down in San Antonio. Didn't take care of the football late. against Arizona. Nice completion percentage against Tulane, but he had 4 drops, and he didn't hit anyone deep against Tulane or against Temple. I guess after the first pass to Farouk was a 47-yarder. After that, we haven't seen anything deep in either of the 2 games. I thought he was completely off his game against Houston. He was throwing, deep balls 5 yards out of bounds. He was missing guys wide open on intermediate throws. And if you think about it, even his 2 big throws to Jake Roberts, one for the touchdown and one for the clinching first down late, right? Both of those were off target. Roberts had to make an acrobatic catch just to bring it in and get the touchdown or get the first down. So I think Jackson, with all the problems around him, I think there's not enough playmakers healthy yet that he can have that kind of success. I think he's still a little young, a little green, so to speak. And I just don't think he's going to have the ability yet to will this team, to drag them down the field, to pick up first downs by himself, and to do this thing by himself. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think with Jackson, we know the talent is there. He just clearly, to me, was, whether you want to say he was rattled against Houston or it flipped to where he started pressing and then it affected the decision-making, that clearly happened. Once he figures out where the football's going to go on every snap, I think this offense is really going to start humming. That may not come in full swing until later in the year. I think, though, he's going to come out, he's going to play with an edge, and he's going to be a lot more decisive. I think he is going to turn the ball over against Tulane, and I think it may be something a little bit more backbreaking, quote unquote, than the arm punt he had, which was the miscommunication with the Burks. But I think the flip side of that is he's also going to be way more decisive, throwing the ball way earlier, getting the ball out of there, understanding that the pass protection was better. He can hang in there a little bit. And while I'm not projecting Oklahoma to put up 50 points or anything insane, I do think they'll hit the high 20s, low 30s, and I think it'll end up being a pretty comfortable performance on the back of a bounce-back performance from Jackson Arnold.
I think I said earlier he had a good completion percentage against Tulane. That's not a prediction. That was an error. I meant Temple. He had a good completion percentage against Temple. Tulane, we'll see what he can do against Tulane in a couple of days. Thank you guys, as always. Appreciate it. Good stuff as usual. Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com is where you're going to find all of our wall-to-wall coverage of OU football. We've had boots on the ground in Norman all week, and we're going to have the whole staff on the clock come Saturday for you for pregame coverage, all the latest injury reports, breaking news, our world-famous in-game live blog. We've got the post-game interviews with players and coaches, as well as our post-game reaction on the field, and, of course, the Sooners on SI podcast, certified fresh from the press box. On all of our content, I'll remind you again, is free. All you got to do is keep it right here at Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. For Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.